Anybody who goes from going to law to creating handbags, I have to know the story.
Why would am I giving you $5,000 for a bag when I know that it probably costs? Why am I not investing my money in the Black community?
When I took a look at the site and I was like, oh my God, these bags are dope. And I would say, like, it does not look like someone who doesn't have a design background. Like it looks very much like luxury. I love it.
You don't have to go and pay Gucci or Prada or Louis Vuitton some exorbitant price, but you could still have a fly, high quality bag and look great. I just knew that this was like something that I needed to do.
Welcome to the Omi Show, where we bring you authentic insight into the world of finance, pop culture, tech, and business news. And I'm adding to that spirituality, by the way. My guess has nothing to do with that, but that's what I want. I'm telling y'all that I'm adding that for 2024. We're going to talk about spirituality up in here, okay? So today, our guest is Seneca Connor. She is a force with a rich tapestry of experiences from Bakersfield, California. Seneca's path has taken her from UCLA to Loyola Law School, where she then became a deputy public offender, venturing into corporate immigration law and global mobility. But that isn't the end of her journey. Hello. Seneca is here today because she has founded the company, The Bag Icon, which I looked at these bags and I was like, yes, ma'am, which is an affordable, high quality handbag company that was inspired by iconic women throughout history. In the continuation of our founder series, we are happy to welcome to the Omi Show, Seneca Connor. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you made me sound pretty impressive.
You know that you are impressive. Okay. I mean, come on now. Anybody who goes from going to law to creating handbags, I have to know the story, okay? Because one, God bless you for doing the great work of being a public defender, okay? Because it is the Lord's work.
Yes.
And and so thank you for that. But I'm so curious. You could be doing anything in the world, clearly, right? And clearly you've done some of those things. You could be sailing the seven seas. You could be climbing Mount Etrush. You could be Everest. You could be exploring the wonders of the world. Why did you decide to start the Bag Icon?
The Bag Icon. Yeah, so wow, that's like a great question. I'm probably still working through the answer, but I think that I've always been a bag lady. You know, that's always been the thing that I like. You know, there's people who love shoes, there's people who, love clothes. I love clothes too, and I love shoes, but I really love bags. So that's my one thing that I'm going to go out and get and buy. It's a handbag. But I started, really to kind of get discouraged in the past couple of years with the designer brands. And as I've gotten older and a little more conscious, I just started to think about, okay, so like, why am I giving you, $5,000 for a bag when I know that it probably costs 150 or 200 to make, right? So then taking that even a little further in just this learning more about the economic wealth gap, between Black community and, others, I just started thinking, why am I giving you my money at all? Like, why am I not investing my money in the Black community? And so, and then, I started looking around and there are great other, Black handbag designers that are out there. Lots of them, a few of them that are well known are men, which is perfectly fine. However, I design my bags for women. Those bags are beautiful, gorgeous, but they're tiny, right? I can't get all my stuff that I tote around as a mother, a woman who's on the move every day. And so I just decided, hey, I'm just going to create my own. It's kind of evolved. Everything that I do, I try to be conscious and aware and try to have a impact, on this world. Right now, we're kind of facing some attacks. We're under attack, I think, as Black people in this country. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to make these bags. I'm going to name them after, iconic women, in particular Black women. It's not just Black women, but that is the focus, because those have been, my inspiration. So, and I just threw it all together. This is what I'm going to do. And, and just give women, and in particular Black women, another option to have a high quality bag that's in a great style. And you don't have to go and pay Gucci or Prada or Louis Vuitton, some exorbitant price, but you can still have a fly, high quality bag, and look great. So this isn't that what we want, as women. We want to look good, right?
I mean, listen, all day. You have held various positions from being a public defender to being a senior manager of HR. My first question is like, what have you learned? Like, what would
Ooh,
you say are your like big takeaways? I mean, because when I think about this, like being a public defender is one side of human life, right? Like you get
yes,
to see things in a certain way. And I mean, everything from, the person may have not done it, but cannot afford
yeah,
to work themselves out of whatever
right.
situation that they're
That they're in,
in, right?
right.
Like I think Sandra Bland, she was locked up, and it was like 600, it was like something minimal, like, and
Something
I don't mean
ridiculous,
to say that as if like to judge other people's finances, but I was like, oh my god, they left her locked up for like $600. You know what I mean? Like it was something like
right?
that. It was
And
under $2,000.
right. And I think,
And
yeah, no, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, 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 no. I'm just sharing that like that's a whole different other side of life, right? And then you go into like HR, which is like another side of life, right? Which is another side of like people moving through different situations, and sometimes they right, sometimes they wrong. And then there
Right.
is entrepreneurship, which is now
Yes,
you have these customers,
yes,
right? And luxury customers have a certain way of being as well.
yes,
And the communication with them is different. So this is really giving you an opportunity to really work with different kinds of people, and it's kind of almost like a master class in just humanity. So
yes.
like I'm curious about like what kind of things have you seen walked away, like what comes to mind for you when you just take a moment to say, wow, like all of my experience together, what have you walked away with?
Wow, that's a very deep question, B. I don't know that I've ever thought about it like that, in those, in that way. Like, I became a public defender because, um, I am very passionate about just making sure everybody has an equal shot in our system, right? Because the system is not fair, but the majority of people that get screwed over on our system are people that don't have money, right? And a lot of times that's, people that look like you and me, and so that I was super passionate about that. And the reason I left that wasn't because it was because of a boy that I ended up marrying, and I moved to New York. It wasn't because I had lost that passion or that desire. But I will say that role taught me really, from the inside, that the majority of people that I represented are not criminals. They're
Mm.
just people who made a bad decision, maybe, right? Some of them are wrongfully accused, right? And so what you learn from that is that you never just take anything at face value. You got to dig in. You got to look at things, from different sides. You got to analyze the facts. You don't just, say, oh, just because someone is accused of this thing, that doesn't mean that they did it. sometimes they did do it, right? But that doesn't mean they're a criminal. It means maybe they were at the wrong place at the wrong, at the wrong time. Maybe they're hanging out with the wrong people in the wrong group. Maybe they were drinking, right? I can't tell you how many real, crimes, the majority of crimes involve some kind of substance that is playing a part in people not making the right decision, and why and then you find yourself in a bad situation, right? But in my representation, I probably came across a good 5 to 10 who were actual criminals. Like, you have a criminal mind. You committed the crimes, and you gonna keep committing them because
Mm-hmm.
you are, you, for whatever reason, that's who they are. That's how their mind works, and that's how they move in the world. So corporate America, it's probably more real criminals in there. If we want to be honest. Um, but because there's the legitimacy of running a business and all of this, it's not looked at the same way. But you get, I think what I've learned really is how to be myself in
Mm.
that world that, kind of wants you to be something in, particular. I have to learn how to speak up. I've been pretty good at that life, but how to speak up within this corporate context when I see things that aren't ethical, when I see people within my own organization that might be doing something that I don't agree with, right? Because a part of there is this, oh, I'm going to go along to get along so I can get that promotion. So people will be happy, with me because I said yes to what they wanted to do, even though that wasn't the right thing,
Mm.
right? Whereas I don't do that. And so people know when they come to me, I'm going to say what I think, right? If you're
Were you
wrong.
always that? Were you always that way, or do you think like that developed after your time as a public defender? Like where do you think it came from? Is that something that like your this core of your family?
I
Where do you think
think
it came
for
from?
me, I've always been one that would speak up if I saw something wrong that I didn't believe, that didn't sit right with me, right? I was never one that was going to go along with the crowd or go along with what y'all doing, that I don't think that that's right. And I think part of it is just me, like maybe I was just born that way. But it honestly, because I'm older now and I'm more confident, like I don't care as much as I used to, like if when I was in my 20s or my teens, of what people think about me, right? So now that, I'm not going to say my age, but I'm older. And so I don't necessarily fear the repercussion of speaking up and saying, "Look, that's not right. I'm not okay with that. I don't think you should do that because that would be unethical." And this isn't, in a corporate world. I'm having to say these things, and
Yeah.
and and sometimes that's shocking to me because I'm like,
Mm.
so that's really how you guys are moving and doing, right? We're in HR. But anyway, no, no. And so I think I just don't fear the consequence, because it's like, if you want to fire me or you want to, retaliate against me for speaking up about something I don't feel good about, that's okay with me. I'm fine with that, because I have to sleep at night and I have to look at myself in the mirror and I have to have peace, which is my main goal, right? Is to protect my own peace and my own,
100%. And so
right?
as an entrepreneur, how are you? So you have moved away from work. So you're full time as the bag icon.
No, I still have a
Oh,
full
okay,
time
okay,
job.
okay, okay. Well,
I still
but
have a
I
full
love
time
that
job.
because so are you still doing HR and then the bag icon?
Hmm. Yeah,
And
so I'm
so
doing
what are
both
some of
right now.
those? What are some of those? How do you manage that? And this is so good because a lot of our audience members are probably doing that too,
Yeah,
right? Or at least at the
yeah,
beginning of it. How
yes.
how has that been for you? How has the management of that been for you?
Woo, that's it's been, I would say, difficult. It's been challenging and a learning process, right? Because, I have a full time job. I have a family. I have a toddler. Um, and then I have this bag icon that's really important to me, and I'm really passionate about it. And so, what I realized is that something is going to have to give every day. Like, it's not going to be the same thing, right? But on one particular day, I may not have 100% to give, to my job. Maybe I have to put off one little thing that I may have to do that, on Friday, right? But you just have to figure out how to balance it all. It's not easy. But I I know it's possible, and I never wanted to say, oh, let me not do this. Let me not start this because, everything isn't 100%, the perfect time. Or, I just think you have to just take that first step and just start and just go out and, and do it and, see, where it takes you. And that's a part of like stepping out on faith and having, faith, because I really believe like God gave me this idea. He dropped it into my spirit basically, because I wasn't like super thinking about, oh, what can I do, what business can I start. It just kind of like whoop, and then I was like, oh, let me do this.
And
Yeah.
you are doing it, okay? Because when I see the number, when I took a look at the site and I was like, oh my God, these bags are dope. I'm so glad to have you a part of the Black Girl Ventures family. I'm definitely going to be ordering the Grand Mirror,
Oh
and
yeah.
but I'm waiting for the new ones. So I shared the new ones, the new ones with the circle at the top. I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
count me in. So
Okay,
I
yes,
think
I'm
you're,
so
and I would
glad.
say like it does not look like someone who doesn't have a design background. Like it looks like, you know what I mean? Like it looks very much like luxury I would go buy. And so like I'm like, this is what's up. I love it.
That's so awesome. I think, my mother has had a huge, impact on my style, and like she was my style icon. She passed away last May,
I'm sorry to hear that.
and she was a model when she was growing up, and she was just like, I just used to sit on the bed and just watch her get dressed and put her makeup on, and she just had great style. And so I feel like everything I learned from her, and it's just really informed when I design a bag. And not only that, but also my grandmothers, my two grandmothers, like they also have had a huge impact. So when I'm thinking about designing, those are the women that I have in my mind. um
Well, maybe your mom, by way of God, is who also, dropped this into your heart to do. I'm a
yeah.
firm believer that like if something occurs to you to do, you're the one that should do it.
Yeah, I agree. I
You
so
don't have
agree.
to, you
Right.
know, but I do believe that if something occurs to you, because I think like out of all the millions of thoughts we have a day, this didn't
Yeah.
have to be one of them. Are you gonna?
Right. Right. So yeah, no, you're right. That's a good way to look at it, because it's like, you know, that thought isn't a coincidence. It's there for you, and it really is, what do you do with that? Like, do you step out and move on that? And that's one thing that I've learned over the years. It's like, I don't wait. If I feel like God's given me a idea, a thought, I just go because I know that he's going to meet me at, you know, at that point, right? He's going to open the doors and then the next door. I don't always know, I can't always see the plan fully, you know, and say, oh, I knew this was, you know, going to be successful. I knew this was, no, I just knew that this was like something that I needed to do and needed to be doing. So,
I love that. And so a couple takeaways for me is just this unwavering trust in yourself and your own voice and in
yes,
God, and just is like,
yes,
make acting on that trust, right? Because I think there's like a trust and a self confidence, but then there's like acting on that, whether it's raising your voice, whether it is starting the thing that you feel to start. And I'm so glad that you started the bag icon. I saw
thank
the
you.
awesome names, the Fanny, the Henrietta, and I'm like,
Yes,
yes, yes, yes, yes. Love that. One, I'm from the South. And so these names are, mean something to me differently. But I also
yes,
say that like knowing that they're after historical figures also
yes,
just brings a different energy to the bag. So make sure that y'all go check it out. The Bag Icon on Instagram and
yes,
thebagicon.com.
yes, that's
Okay,
it.
thebagicon.com online. Up next, we have to go to a quick break. Thank you so much, Seneca, for all of that and sharing your story. Stay right
Thank
here
you.
because up next is the Ask Omi segment. So we get to flip it, and she's going to be the interviewer. And then she gets to ask me whatever she wants to ask me. And we're back. I'm going to give her an opportunity. I'm going to give her the floor so she can ask me whatever she want to ask me. It doesn't matter it could be personal, it could be business. We open the floor and we say, go for it. Here we go.
This is so fun. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I didn't know I was going to be doing the interviewing, but this is like really exciting for me. So thank
Okay.
you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to ask you these questions because I follow you. I follow you on Instagram, and so yeah, I'm curious about you too, right? So, and I'm really honored that that you had me on your show and that you given me the chance to ask you some questions. So,
All right.
so you were talking a little bit about you're going to have an upcoming Where Are You Now, right? And so I want to ask you that question.
Oh, okay.
Wh-
Okay.
where are you now? Like since you
Ooh.
started Black Girl Ventures and all of the wonderful things that you're doing. Where are
Yeah,
you?
it's such a great question because I am 8 years in. So we're going into the eighth year of Black Girl Ventures. And I am in need of a sabbatical.
Yeah.
That's what I'll say. I've been going strong, going hard, nonstop for this entire time. And I think I need to take a moment. I think
Yeah.
that my team is to a place now where we have strong leaders in place, and I have a COO starting in a couple weeks, and that'll be kind of like the final piece of the puzzle for me to be able to step away for a little bit. I started taking a month off in 2022. And then I realized, like, right at the end of that month, like, as soon as my nervous system has settled, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going right back into overdrive. So this time around, I'm going to take 3 months. It won't be very public when I do it, so nobody will really know because it'll still be posts going up and like all the efforts will keep going. But in terms of where I am now, I'm there. I'm also in like this mode of celebrating what I have done, and that's not something that I always stop to do. But when I meet founders that we've worked with, when I meet people that we granted to, or just have come across us in any kind of way, come across me in any kind of way, I have so much gratitude. Like I'm getting emotional about it because I have so much gratitude to just be like, wow, like from just thinking like, ooh, let me try and help. Right.
Right.
Let me try to help
Right.
people. And then to see what we've been able to do in the team and all of that. And it's been a journey. It's been a journey. Lord knows. Okay.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
I'm in a place of settling into other gifts.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and just being like I need to take a break.
Yeah. I do totally. totally understand that. And I think that, yeah, and it's good that you have that, the self reflection to know that, like, I do need a break. I need a break, right? Right? Because we can't just go, give 1,000%, for just time and time and time and not need a break, and that not, it starts to wear on you. So
100%.
that's great. I think that's awesome. Um, okay, so another question that I have is, one thing I have been thinking about myself is, what do you think for these young folks that we have today? I say that because I'm like, sometimes I don't understand them myself, because I feel like I'm from a different generation and like a whole different way I was brought up and stuff. But what do you think is the one thing that you can tell them that would guarantee their success? Like, one thing. I mean, I know there's a lot of things, but if they could do one thing, what do you think that could be that would set them up for success in life?
Yeah, if they could do one thing, it would be getting better at relationship building. And I think that, for me, I could kind of wrap up a lot of the things we're dealing with Gen Z. Is they have no
Yeah.
clue what it
Uh,
means to have certain levels of integrity in relationships, and what it means to, and I think they do have a service mindset. Like, I don't want to say they don't want to serve, but I think like they have different ideas around how they're supposed to be treated and what they're entitled to during their service. And so it's just a totally different thing. I literally, like I was saying in the first segment, like, look, I'm, I'm debating on whether or not my kids should be the ones taking care of me. You know what I mean? Because their way of thinking about taking care of is totally different. And
yeah.
every generation has this, like, oh, I don't want to do what my parents did. And I think
Right.
at this point, as millennials, we took that too far. And so these Gen Z folks, I don't want to do what my parents did. Maybe we should have done what our parents did, because these we should have took some notes from what our parents did, because trying to
But,
provide everything, trying to keep them away from any struggle, trying to
oh
sort of
yes,
not
right.
coddle them, but like just put them in a place of not having to feel any fights. Actually, I think
Right.
is doing them a disservice.
I think you're so that I totally agree. And when I think back even on my own childhood, and that there was not a I don't know that people were as concerned about me in my, and because I just think that, the child wasn't I wasn't always the focus of, everything in life, and what, my parents, were doing their thing, and and I was there on their good graces.
That's so. Oh, I love that you said it, because that is literally it. My
Yeah.
parents were doing their thing, and I was there.
Right.
Like,
And I was
now,
there.
I had food, and shelter, and water. You know what I mean? But
Right.
it still wasn't. It wasn't
Yeah.
that. The level of entitlement that I could even have
Right.
wasn't real,
Mm-mm.
right? Like, that wasn't real. It's like, you are here, and we love that you're here, and at the
Right.
same time, you got to pull a certain weight, and you need to
Yes.
know what it means to stand up, talk, speak, be
Right.
kind, like, have integrity, be honest, like those kinds of things. And I think that, and it's not, it's so strange, because it's not that I don't think that Gen Z lacks honesty. In fact, they lack a little bit of tact, I think, in
Yeah.
sharing
Yeah.
their honesty, right? Because
Right.
their honesty kind of blurts out as what they're entitled to have from you or the situation, versus like, I'm sharing my honest opinion, and I'm open to others,
Right.
right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's a different world. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
relationship, get rid of relationship.
I totally agree, because at the, the foundation, and just to throw in, like, so my mother was an etiquette teacher. But and so the but she always, so she taught, like, how to walk, sit, how, the table manner, all of those things, right? But the first lesson was always character and integrity, because all the other stuff doesn't matter if you don't have this inside, and you don't know, like, that, you if you're not going to show up somewhere, that you need to call the person, and say, I'm not going to show up, I'm not going to show up. Or if you're going to be late or running late, that you need to tell somebody, I'm going to be running late. Or, whatever it is that just says, hey, I'm thinking about other people,
Yeah.
and that they might be affected by what I'm doing, and just having that, which, and I just kind of feel like that is missing a little bit. So I want to ask you another question. It's random, but it got under my skin on Instagram.
Okay.
So it was about whether or not you should be able to wear your pajamas and your bonnet and your slippers to the airport, like to go to the airport to go, right? Okay. So this was the whole debate that was on Instagram. And I was reading the comments, and they were kind of all over the place. And because some people were saying, like, oh, well, you should leave your bedclothes at home and not wear them outside. Your bonnet is for a nighttime, right? And not for the airport and flying or whatever. And then other people were saying, well, the person might be depressed, or they might be going through something, right? And so we should give them some grace. And then other people were saying, well, I'm not trying to be respectable to impress white people, like the respectability argument. And so I'm just curious, like, what do you
What
think
do I think?
about that?
Well, I grew up, to your point, I grew up at a time where my aunt was like, look, make sure you got good panties on because you
Yeah.
might pass out. And if you pass out, you don't want anybody to see no raggedy panties. You know what I mean? Like that was, I grew up in that.
Me too.
I grew up in that era. So what I think about that is that, here's what I think. First, I'm not a fan of wearing bonnets outside,
Hmm.
unless you created some type of fashion out of it, right? So, I mean, if
Right.
you created some type of fashion out of it, do you? But
Right.
that's not something that I would ever do. I'm not a fan of that. I mean, I won't even wear Crocs outside. Like they're
Yeah.
too, and I'm not saying I'm that uppity about it. I just think they don't look right with what I like to put on. You know what I mean?
Right.
They
Right.
just bulky and like it just
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to me. So
Right.
if anybody else want to wear Crocs outside, I'm not mad at that. My daughter does, but I
Yeah.
don't,
Yeah.
right? So I think that and when it comes to night clothes, let's also be clear that don't nobody know what anybody's night clothes look like. Okay, I might
Right.
sleep in sweatpants, so that might be my night clothes, right?
Right. Right.
And I do think that if you catching super early flights like them 5:30 a.m. flights,
Yeah.
I don't care what you're wearing. It don't matter
Right.
to me. I mean, I don't
You're
care
just
what you're
gonna
wearing, no
get
matter what
there.
time you're flying. But I mean, I'm on the fence because I do have this like anybody should be able to wear whatever they want to wear. This argument is just like the argument around should they let the little kids wear Superman pajamas to the airport? You know what I mean? Like these are the
Yeah,
same
right. Right.
arguments.
Right. Right.
And I think that on a plane, you're uncomfortable and you're around so many people
Yeah.
that you should have an opportunity to be comfortable, right?
Got you.
I also think this is a socioeconomic thing. I mean, people
Yeah.
may not, this may be an unfavorable opinion, but I think that if you're making certain levels of money, there's things you're going to do and you're not going to do. I mean, hey, like it's a socioeconomic thing. And if you do it, you're going to have such a level of it that it looks like regular clothes or nobody's going to think it's night clothes. There's just a
Right.
certain way
Right.
you are going to conduct yourself
Right.
when you are making a certain level of money. And I'm not
Right.
saying that means if you're not making money, you something. I'm just saying this is just a reality. Like as I float different circles of people,
Yeah.
like what leisure looks like is
Yeah.
different across these different socioeconomic lines. And when we have
Yeah.
these public conversations and we leave out socioeconomics, because
Yeah.
let me tell you something. I'm not, and it is more Eurocentric. The more money you make, that's real, and the
Yeah.
more types of roles you have. So if you are a lawyer, if you are a doctor, if you are it's more Eurocentric. That's real.
True. I
Um,
agree.
but when you're in your circles of people, they're looking at you like, why would you?
I know.
Like
Right.
that
Right.
may work in your circle. So what I tend to
Exactly.
do is go, oh, the people around you, that is what y'all do. You know
Right.
what I
And
mean? Like,
that's and you're
and
fine. Yeah.
that's not the people that I probably would be around, right? Because I'd be
Right.
looking at my homegirl sideways, like, why'd you come to that road about it? Girl, what's
Right.
going on? You
Oh, you
you got a
have to.
headache? You got alopecia? What, like something going on? If you like, there's a reason other than like I wanted to wear. You know what
We
I
need to
mean?
have a talk and see what's
Yeah,
happening
there's
with
some
you.
other reason why you're
Right.
doing it. It's
That you're
not just,
doing that.
oh, I just walked out the
Right.
house. You know, that's
Yeah.
not a real thing. So I think that it's hard to have these conversations among mixed socioeconomic groups because the people who are making a little bit more money, they live in a more Eurocentric, they probably float more Eurocentric circles. And so the idea of like, I'm not going to dress up for white people, I don't know that it's purely that thought for everybody. Like, I don't know that it's
Yeah.
that thought. It's not like conscious in that
Conscious.
way. It's
Right.
not that.
Right.
It's not I'm dressing up for white people. It is literally like what is acceptable in my circle of friends and my circle of influence. Let me use that. In my circle of
Yes.
influence, what is acceptable is that we walk and we talk and we do this.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's often left out of the conversation. And again, this is not to pit one bad or good.
Right.
It's like, oh, that's your circle of influence. That's how y'all roll.
And that's what's yeah. And so that's what's acceptable. And so when you go to get ready for the airport, then that's not, and it's not even what you would be consciously considering, but it's just like what you do,
That's
basically.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that people also need to chill because I travel a lot and it's not massive.
Yeah.
Like out of all the
This is
travel,
true.
yeah, out
It's
of all the
true.
travel I do, maybe I see one or two women with a bonnet on. Like and I travel twice, 2 or 3 times monthly. And I like
Yeah.
on
You
in the
travel a lot.
airport, I
Yeah.
may only see maybe 1 or 2 women with a bonnet on. It's not common. And you look odd, to be honest. When you're in the airport with a
Well,
bonnet on, you do look odd. You stand out because ain't nobody else with a bonnet on for the most part.
right.
So if that's what you do, okay. If that's what you want,
Right.
okay. But it's also
Yeah.
not a massive issue. Like I feel like when we have this issue, it goes into this like black hole, literally a black people black
Yes.
hole. Like, oh,
Yeah.
black people, and it's like, look,
But
Slim,
it's not, because
it's
I don't think
not.
majority of us really do um you know go to the airport like that. I would say, because, and I also agree, because you brought up a really good point, that it's your circle of influence, because I know that growing up in so I'm from California, but my dad's from New Orleans. I spent every summer in New Orleans, and so certain things are common in New Orleans, like going out in rollers in your hair, right? That women used to do that back in the day when I was little. They would go and they would wrap it up, because they had some event at the, later on in the day or whatever. But that was not common to see over here in California with, black women doing that, right? So it is kind of, you know what is okay in your circle, and how and how you're moving in life. Okay, last question. I don't know how much time we have,
I
but
don't know if I'm gonna have time. Okay, go. I'm gonna try to answer quick.
okay, what do you think about reparations for black people?
Oh, I love that. Okay, so I got 2 minutes left, and I got to wrap up the show. So I'm gonna try to do this all in
Okay.
one. One, I think absolutely reparations. We should get them, and I think that we need to think about them differently, though,
Okay.
because 40 acres and a mule. I don't know, that ain't happening, right?
Right.
One, I think that if you promise somebody something, you should give it to them. So bottom line, point blank, period. We were promised it legally.
Yes.
We should have
Right.
it. So for me, there's no debate about that part. Like we were promised it, we didn't get it, kind of end the discussion on that period.
Yep.
However, I do think that right now we should have the opportunity for it to look, we should have pillars for how we can choose it, right? So like I
Okay.
think that like intellectual property is becoming sort of the next realm of like a give and take on like it being stolen from you and you owning it and then it being sold back to you. So I think your data and I think things like that are things that we are like giving away, but then will be sold back to us in different ways. And
Mm.
so I think that we should
Interesting.
have the option to choose what our reparations look like. I think, and there should be very concrete things that create wealth in America. So you could choose to have a business fully funded for your first year. You should choose to be able to have, a piece of property or a piece of land. those are like three strong pillars of the U.S. economy that create wealth for people. So I think that forgiving debt is not a reparation. I think that we should not even visit it being that, because forgiving debt does not inherently produce wealth.
Wealth, right.
So I think it should be things that produce wealth. So I think we absolutely should have it. It's crazy that the conversation is not going further. And I can talk about it all day. So, but I got to end the show. But long story short, we definitely should have it. Okay. Make sure you get your book, Originate, Motivate, Innovate, 7 Steps to Building a $1 Billion Network. Wherever you buy books, it's there. Go get it. Hit me up on Instagram at Omi Bell, Black Ventures as well. You can also hit me up on X, the platform formerly known as Twitter, at the Omi Bell, or LinkedIn. I would love to hear from you. Love to have you join the show if you're interested. Thank you so much, Seneca, for joining me today. It's been awesome talking to you. Thank you.